Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is all about how to build a classic wardrobe on any budget. I get asked questions about this all the time, so I thought I would do a whole video on it. So this is basically all the tips and tricks and general pieces of advice that I've used over the years to build up my wardrobe. And what I found is if you have a really solid foundation to your wardrobe, it makes every buying decision and all your fashion choices later on a lot easier. So I hope you guys enjoy this and find it useful, and let's get started. This video is in partnership with ShopTagger. I've worked with ShopTagger quite a few times before, and I know so many of you use and love the platform. I love it as well. If you're an online shopper, it is truly a game changer. If you're not familiar with it, it's basically an online tool that allows you to be notified when items go on sale or come back in stock. It is seriously amazing. I know so many of you use it already though, so I will do just a very brief tutorial on how you use it if you're not familiar with the platform already. The best thing about ShopTagger is that it notifies you immediately as soon as things go on sale, which is so useful for those very classic in-demand items which do sell out very quickly if they do go on sale, so you're able to get there before anyone else and grab your size. This is the best way I know of making sure you have a very classic timeless wardrobe without spending an absolute fortune. Every little helps. I have a gorgeous coat here from Maj, for example. I have another coat from Maj which I love. I bought it many years ago and it's still going strong. And in order to save it to my ShopTagger, I have just installed the button on my browser right up here. I click it and then I can just go ahead and choose my size, be notified when there's any price change, or choose my percentage amount. And I can add it to a list if I want. And then I just click save and it will be added to my ShopTagger, which is right here. Not only is it great for being notified when things go on sale, but it's also really great for being notified when things come back in stock as well. I was eyeing up this dress, but when I first found it, pretty much all the sizes were out of stock. And so I added it to my ShopTagger and I immediately got notified when it came back in stock and I was able to buy it. So useful, so great for online shopping, and if you're interested in trying to build up a very classic wardrobe, then this is a great tool. As you can see, it is super easy to use, and honestly it is the most useful thing if you do like online shopping. So I will leave the link down below if you want to sign up. It is completely free to use, there is absolutely no cost, so it's really just a win-win and I would highly recommend. My first tip is to go for neutrals, and this stands true even if you absolutely live for colour and you hate dressing in boring black. Having a good set of neutrals in your wardrobe will make everything easier, I promise. And you can pick your neutrals as well, so whether that is black or white, grey, nude, camel, there are so many different types of neutrals, but if you have a good solid foundation of neutral colours, it really will make everything a lot easier. It will make getting dressed a lot easier. It will make your wardrobe a lot more timeless, so it will stand the test of time better, but it will also help to make your statement pieces, regardless of whether they're colourful or not, really stand out and pop as well. So I'd highly recommend investing in a good set of neutrals across every item, whether that is accessories or coats, blouses, jeans, whatever it is. Having a good set of neutrals will really make it so much easier to get dressed and lay that foundation for future purchases. Tip number 2 is linked to tip number 1, but it is make sure you have your basics covered, because again, it's going to make everything a lot easier and your wardrobe a lot more timeless. And here I'm talking about great camisoles. As you can see, I'm a huge fan of camisoles. A great pair of jeans, a solid coat, a well-fitting blazer. All these things are just essentials in my wardrobe, and I honestly would struggle to get dressed without them. They are so crucial, I find, and it also just generally makes getting dressed a whole lot easier. I'm also a firm believer that you do not need to spend a ton of money in order to get great basics. Some of my favorite basics come from pretty inexpensive stores, so H&M is a favorite for me, Zara as well. They both do amazing blazers if you're prepared to hunt. ASOS is also great. My camisole here today is from ASOS. In the US, and Taylor and Loft are also favorites for me. It's fully possible to get really amazing basics at fairly cheap prices, but you do have to make sure that you hunt. So for every camisole I buy, I probably try on 10 others which get rejected because either the material feels a bit flimsy or the cut isn't very flattering. I don't think it's going to wear very well. I am quite picky about what stays in my closet. But because of that, I am left with items which I can wear time and time again and will hopefully see me through for quite a while. Number 3 is basics do not have to be boring. So just because you're talking about a classic wardrobe doesn't mean we're talking a twin set here. You can still pick items which still look very on trend, but still actually quite classic and will see you through many years. So an example of that is actually my biker jacket. I wore this in a recent video. It's my autumn luxury video, and I got so many questions about it. It actually wasn't a featured piece. I just used it as an accessory piece to talk about other things, but the amount of questions I got about it was insane. And I actually bought this, I think, 3, maybe 4 years ago. So I've had it a really long time, but a biker jacket is just something that is never going to go out of fashion. If you're interested, it's from the Couples, but unfortunately it is quite old. It's actually a fabric one, so it's very, very comfortable to wear. But even though it is, you know, quite a trendy item, it still has seen me through for a very long time. I bring it out year after year because I love it so much. It did cost a bit more money, but it's great quality and it still looks good as new. So it's definitely possible to get items which still look very relevant and on trend, but which are actually quite classic. Another good example of this is leopard print, which is such a big trend at the moment. I thought of this specifically because a few weeks ago, one of my friends said she was on the hunt for a leopard print skirt. And my other friend said, well, I actually have one, you can have it if you want because I don't wear it anymore. And a couple of weeks later, my friend said to me, I really regret saying that because now they come back in fashion and I just want to wear mine all the time. And there are things like that which do come back in fashion so quickly. Leopard print is a great example, but there are so many other prints which are quite fashiony, but they're also very timeless and classic. So here I'm talking about polka dots or stripes, gingham. Those things come back year after year, but they're actually quite classic and timeless as well. So it's fully possible to get very on-trend items, which is still very classic and will see you through many years. Similarly, something like a biker jacket really isn't going out of fashion anytime soon, and the same can be applied for things like a trench coat or a leather skirt. These are things which can still look very on-trend and they constantly get recycled, but are actually very classic pieces that will see you through so many years. Tip number 4 is to prioritize your money carefully and pick high volume items to invest in. So here I'm talking about a great coat, a pair of boots, a daily handbag, whether that's a shoulder tote or a top handle, whatever your preference is. Make sure what you're spending the most money on are high volume items that you get a lot of use out of. And this is something that I never used to do and I really regret it. I used to be a complete sucker for spending a lot of money on cocktail dresses. So whenever there was a bigger event or a wedding I had to go to, I'd spend a lot of money on a very fancy dress and I'd love it, but I'd get maybe 1 or 2 uses out of it. I didn't want to keep wearing the same dress to every single event, especially if it was the same set of people attending, so I'd use that excuse to buy another one, and it was just money down the drain. I would have been much better off putting my money towards classic items that I could use time and time again. So a good example of this is this coat that I have. This is another piece that I get asked about a lot. I bought it about 8 or 9 years ago from Maj. It was about £200. It was a huge splurge for me back then. I was a bit unsure when I made the purchase because even though I loved it, it was a ton of money for me, but I am still wearing it to this day. I crack it out every single winter. I always get asked about it. And it's just a very classic piece, you know, there's nothing too fancy about it. It's just single-breasted in a camel color, but it just doesn't seem to age, and it was so well worth the money for me. So if you buy well, you're only going to have to buy once, and that is the best tip I can give you in terms of building up a classic wardrobe, which will actually save you money in the long run. And this really does apply if you're targeting those high volume items that you are going to get a lot of use out of. I talk about cost per wear a lot on this channel, but I think it's such an important concept to keep in mind if you are investing a little bit more money in items, to really make sure you're prioritizing your money well and spending on the things that matter. Tip number 5 is all about how to score those classic items, and I always think shopping for classic items falls into 2 camps. So the first one is knowing that you have your eye on a specific item from a specific brand. So here I'm thinking about trenches from Burberry, for example. Burberry does trenches every single year. They're not going to stop anytime soon, and they also do a seasonal sale every single year. So if you're after a Burberry trench, I would definitely say it is worth it to wait it out to see if you can grab it at a discount. However, there are also items which look very classic but won't be specific to that particular brand. So for example, a gorgeous camel coat, maybe like the one I have from Maj, they are always in demand, and I always see them sell out really quickly if they're beautifully made and well fitting. And if they're not specific to that particular brand, then you can't rely on them to come back in stock every single year. So for example, Theory is a brand that always does beautiful coats. They will always produce them year after year, but they won't produce the same ones. So it's not worth it to try and grab that at a discount if you're after a very popular item like a camel coat. Every single year I see coats come into stock on Net-a-Porter and ASOS around August, September, and they always sell out very quickly, or at least the nice ones do. So if you're after a specific item and find one that you like and you know it's not specific to that brand and they don't repeat it year after year, I would always say just grab it because it's worth the investment. However, if you know that brand always repeats it time and time again, then definitely wait it out and see if you can grab it at a discount. And obviously you can use tools like Shop Tagger, which will not only notify you when the item goes on sale, but if you did miss out the first time, if it comes back in stock as well. Tip number 6 is to figure out which stores work for you and your body type and also your style. This is well worth doing, and it's well worth spending a bit of time on as well, because actually how classic something is also really depends on how well it fits you. There are some stores which I just never bother with anymore. So a good example is COS. I love COS because I think the overall aesthetic is really chic, but I know there is literally no point in me going in and trying anything on because the items just don't fit me well. They always fit really badly on me and I always just feel very frumpy in them, so I just don't bother anymore. I have very reliable go-to favorites which I return to time and time again because I know the fit is there. And on the cheaper side, you do sometimes have to search a bit more. So H&M and ASOS, I will always come back to, and you do have to kind of search a while to find the good stuff, but it's very worth doing. And usually I will find a few things which I absolutely love to bits. On the higher end side for me, there's Rebecca Taylor, who I always return to because I love their items. They are more pricey, but I can really rely on them for fit because I know they suit my body type. So this is well worth doing because not only will it save you time in the long run, but it'll also save you money by avoiding costly mistakes. Tip number 7 is to invest in your accessories. I'm obviously a bit biased here because I'm a big accessory fan, but I truly believe that a very simple outfit with very simple clothes can be elevated with the right accessories. It's also true that a good accessory can see you through many years. Clothes can get worn out very quickly, whereas a good bag can see you through 10, 20, maybe even 30 years. I'm also not talking about designer things here either. Obviously, if you want to splurge on a Chanel bag, I'm a big believer in that as well, but you don't have to spend a lot of money in order to get good quality. There are plenty of brands who are on the rise, brands like Everlane, who do beautiful quality items, and whilst they're not super cheap, they're definitely not Chanel level prices. Everlane do a whole range of beautiful bags. Meghan Markle is a fan. I have one of their totes on my wish list. They look beautiful and I think they're just under the $200 mark. So again, not super cheap, but definitely not insane Chanel prices. They also do an amazing dupe for the Nicholas Kirkwood Beyer flats as well. They look beautiful, very timeless, but not crazy super expensive. My 8th and final tip is to take care of your items. I said it before, but I'll repeat it again. If you buy well, you'll only need to buy once. And maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, but if you take care of your items, they will see you through many, many years. So I have a list of things here which I always recommend doing. My first one is to invest in a debobbling machine. They cost hardly anything. I get mine from Amazon and they are so worthwhile. It really helps to keep your items looking fresh, and I use mine on so many of my coats and sweaters. Tip number 2 is to dry clean when you need to. It is an expense, but it's well worth doing to keep those higher price items looking in tip-top shape. When I'm not dry cleaning, I also hand wash a lot of my items just to make sure that I'm treating them in the most gentle way possible and I'm not wearing them out quicker than I need to. My 4th tip is to hang your items correctly. I always try and avoid hanging knitwear, but for other items, I like to make sure that my items are hung properly with a good coat hanger. So I always use wooden coat hangers. I'd recommend those, but you can also use a velvet hanger as well. I always stay away from wire hangers if I can because they can often misshape my items. So Invest in good hangers if you can, and also make sure not to hang things which shouldn't be hung, like sweaters. I've mentioned this before, but I always like to protect my items if I can, whether that's protecting the suede on a pair of boots, colour locking my jeans with a spray, colour locking my bags so they don't get colour transfer. The spray costs less than £10 and it can save you hundreds over the years, so well worth doing. You can get a spray for pretty much anything, for any material. It takes only a short amount of time to do and it will protect your items for so many years. And my last one is to inspect for damage. You don't have to do this all the time, but a quick once over every now and then can save you a lot of money in the long run, whether that is figuring out if you have a loose button so it doesn't completely fall off, or seeing if you have a bit of dirt on a bag. It's well worth doing because then you can remedy it and the item will last you a lot longer. I always think that if an item is worth spending the money on, it's worth taking care of. If you take care of your items, they will last you a lot longer and that will save you money in the long run. So that is it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any tips of your own on this subject, please leave them down below because I would love to hear them. I will leave the link for Shop Target as well below. I definitely recommend checking them out. Again, if you like online shopping, it is seriously the best thing. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.